to this moment. How have you been able to utilize what you have learned in this class in at work, um at your job, at your business, and all of that? Please, I'd like us all to speak. I can see Steven, I can see Augusta, I can see Michael, I can see Ambassador, I can see Abubakar, and Norma. So please, anyone can go ahead to speak. Let us know how good this program has been for you and what has been your challenges so far. Please go ahead to speak. If you cannot speak, please you can type in the chat box. Okay, I'm waiting for us, Mr. Steven. I always love to hear from you. Michael, Abubakar, thank God. Please go ahead, go ahead, go ahead. Let us hear. Or have we just been attending classes and we have not been making use of all of these skills and things we learned from this session? No, that would not be fair enough. Okay, Abubakar, are you trying to speak? Hello, Abubakar, can you hear me?
Yeah, okay, you know.
Oh, I can't hear you, Abubakar. Okay, so I would assume we have all just been coming to class and we have not utilized all of these things we have been learning in class, and that is not fair enough.
Good morning, sir.
Oh, good morning, Augusta.
Uh, uh, your judgment, I would say, is not true. We have been following. For me, okay,
Okay.
or let me personally, that's my field. And it has really helped me, waking me up in some things that have not that have not been taken serious. Just like the progress that we did, I really do. I have an understanding of it, and it's something that I've been teaching. I've not been carrying out, doing the practical part of it. At least with it, I was able. But the challenge I was not having when I was not trying to do it, because even with what you have taught us, what I do, I will do more research on it to get more information, to understand some of the concepts maybe that was not explained, of which they thought we had already or have already known about. So when I really did that for that of SQL using progress for, I really appreciate it. But the problem I was not having was my system. I could not install it, even when they tried to an extent I could, but I was not able to get the facilitator's number. Though he shared his link, his linked link, but I couldn't get it. I thought I screenshot it, then I couldn't get it. So that, but I understood everything. So we are
All right.
doing our best. uh, we are trying to,
All right.
I for one, I'm trying to follow up, and I'm really enjoying it.
All right. Thank you so
Really
much,
have
Augusta. And
affected me, and what I've really learned, I'm also imparting it on my students.
all right. Thank you so much, Augusta, for sharing. Please, you can go ahead to reach out to the admin on WhatsApp, and they will share you the link to the trainer so you can guide you through all of that. We're so sorry for the delay. Please make sure to text the admin on WhatsApp, and we would share with you. Thank you so much for sharing, Augusta. I think now we have our trainer. Mr. Joseph, are you there?
Hey, morning, training, transformation college.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Joseph. Good morning. So without wasting too much time, I think we already did. I'll be handling over to Mr. Joseph to take us through today's session.
All right. Thank you so much. Thank you for having me again this week. It's not going to be a long session. However, um, we'll just do a brief recap, and then if there are other things we really hope to, maybe questions we have, then we can look around some of those questions. But before we start, I know yesterday, as at the last session, can anyone just tell us what the last session is all about? Anyone? Can you give us brief insights into what we did last week? Let's see. I know there are a lot of, scholars here, a lot of great individuals here, very unique in our own ways. Yeah, so I just want someone who can boldly, come and, just tell us what we went through the course of the last session. Thank you.
Hello, good morning. Good morning, Mr. Joseph.
Good morning, sir. Please go ahead,
Good morning,
sir.
sir. It's good to have you again on the call. I think last week you taught us about information security and risk management. I think we also talked about confidentiality, integrity, availability, and data protection, access control, and as well as multi-factor authentication. Then we have an in-depth study about defense analyst. Then ISO 27001, that's threat assessment. Then vulnerability management, governance, network security, incident response. So those are some of the areas we cover, and we did a real life application. I think that was one document we assessed. I think that's all I can recollect. Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Steven. Thank you for your contribution. Does anyone add any addition to what their take-home was as at our last session? I think Mr. Steven actually took home a lot with respect to what we did. Any other additions? Any other comments? Let's hear from one of our ladies this time around. Maybe I think Augusta was speaking. I think it's Amaka here today, and Olivia. Are they with us today?
I'm sure Olivia is here, but Amaka is not here. Not yet.
Okay, let's hear from one of them. Let's hear what they have, what their take home was. If they have any comments, maybe when the others join in, if they have any other comments or they have questions, we'll probably take that as well. Yes, let's hear from someone. I want to hear from a lady, a very bold lady. Come on, let's give it a trial. Or is it that Mr. Steven has said it all? It seems like Mr. Steven has said it all, though. Okay. So that means I'll take it that we all understand like everything that we went through yesterday. So I'm going to ask questions, bro. If no one is going to volunteer, I'll ask randomly to just get our thoughts.
Good morning, sir. Last lecture, I was off and on, and I've not really had time to go through the recorded section of it. Please, before the end of this weekend, I will do that. But it was only the life scenario that you did I didn't really follow. If you really look at, there was a time I wrote on the chat box that where we were then, but nobody answered. But I will try and go through it to see how it goes. Thank you, sir.
All right, thank you so much, Augusta. That's great. So today, we actually want to, ask questions. If we have any questions, with respect to what we did, and just to, buttress on Stephen's recap, right? We did a lot of things around, we tried to understand the core concepts, the elements as it relates to information security. We defined information security, just to brief us and to carry us along, and everyone who was a bit busy on that Saturday. I know our Saturdays are kind of like busy. But we talked about in-depth into information security. We spoke on the importance, its benefits to organizations, not just to organizations, but to ourselves as individuals. And of course, we looked at certain case scenarios, when we're looking at how we hope to protect information, not giving access to certain request or to certain persons, because of what? Because we fear that the three elements that we define, which is confidentiality, integrity, and availability, might be compromised, right? And then we looked at some of those. We looked at some of the common security threats. We saw malware, we saw insider threats, we saw all of those things, and of course, that kind of helped us to further create a structure or create that direction on how to approach information security management, right? And we said, from an organization's perspective, you want to do proper planning, right? You want to first identify your assets. So we did a lot of spoke with respect to planning, and then we saw the whole risk management as it entails, right? So we looked at all of those things in details. We spoke about how to identify. You need to identify your assets and all of those things. Identifying your assets, you need to know what you have that holds information. What are the systems that hold information? Do you have applications? Do you have network data? Right? So we saw all of those things. And of course, we also spoke about information security from the perspective where when planning, you want to identify your risk to your data, risks with respect to your information assets, right? So you want to identify the risk with respect to your information assets, right? And you also want to do like evaluation. You want to evaluate. You want to give some kind of value to your information assets based on three things. Their confidentiality, integrity, availability. What is the level of the data, or what is the sensitivity of the data, that if there's a compromise to confidentiality, that information asset becomes, it becomes, if confidentiality is compromised, then it becomes a problem. So you want to do, of course, your evaluation, right? You want to look at all of those things in details, right, with respect to your information assets when it comes to confidentiality, integrity, and availability. Of course, based on our criteria here, you want to see what is the sensitivity of data within your assets, or what is the sensitivity of the category of information assets you are trying to protect, right? So everything about information security, you know, we're still saying the same thing. You're trying to protect all of your assets. So we saw all of those things last week, our last session, and we looked at the threats. We looked at how to, you know, conduct your information security risk assessment. Can anyone just give me a brief insight? What are the procedural steps and what framework can we adopt, you know, to implement information security risk management? So, hello, Michael, are you there? Is Michael on the call today?
Yes, Mr. Michael Adebayo is on the call today.
Oh, okay. Let's have Michael, or let's have Frank. Is Frank around? Or Michael?
I'm not sure my Frank is around yet. He may join the call soon because there have been a lot of participants having network issues today.
Oh, all right, all right, all right. So let's hear from Michael. Oh, Michael says he's driving. All right. Okay. So who wants to help us? Who wants to help us? What are the steps to managing information security risk? What are the steps to managing information security risk? What is the process? Remember, I said we need to identify our assets first. What's the next thing that we hope to do? So let me help us. So you want to identify your assets. After you've done that, right, you also want to do an evaluation, right? Evaluate the value of that information assets based on confidentiality, based on the sensitivity of the information sitting in that asset, or based on the category of the information assets, whichever is applicable, right? And we also want to do identify threats and want to identify vulnerabilities, first of all, within our assets. And what are those vulnerabilities? Can anyone tell us what are vulnerabilities we can identify within our assets? Seems like everyone is busy today. What are vulnerabilities we can identify within our assets? Anyone? You don't have to speak. You can say it in the chat. Yes, 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 yes. Who is going to help us? Who is going to help us? I don't want to call any names. I know everyone here is very great and they have been following this session. Right. So what are vulnerabilities that we can cite in our information assets? What are
It's
the
not
vulnerabilities?
like phishing, smishing.
No, so phishing, smishing they're like threats that can
Yeah.
exploit vulnerabilities. So first of all, you want to understand what your vulnerabilities are. So vulnerabilities will be like weaknesses in your systems that,
Okay.
you know, threat actors can exploit, right?
Exploit.
Like software
Okay, sir.
vulnerabilities,
Say again.
software vulnerabilities, like human vulnerabilities, like data vulnerabilities, where you can use that to getting through to know the assets available. Does that make a point?
Yeah, I mean, it does. But when you say data vulnerability, what are you speaking to specifically? When you say data vulnerability,
Poor backup practices or sensitive data being stored in plain sight.
okay. Okay, poor backup practices. Hmm. I'm really curious. When you say backup practices, what are the vulnerabilities there when you say poor backup practices? Can you tell us the specifics?
Like, I mean, poor backup practice in the sense that probably the backup is not on a cloud service, is on a hard drive where everybody in the office has access to it, and it can easily be connected to anybody's system without having like a how would I put it, a procedure to go through before you can access those backups, so that it will not just anybody system can be attacked and be used to get those access. That's what I mean.
What about sharewares?
Sorry, can you take that again?
Sharewares.
Share words. Can you type that in the chat? I'm not sure I got that.
Okay, let
Thank
me
you.
do that
Thank you.
too.
Thank you, Adedamola. So apparently Adedamola has just said that a vulnerability can be a data vulnerability, meaning that unauthorized access to data, right? So that's a vulnerability. So what would be a threat to that? What would be a threat? You remember we said the vulnerability is the weakness. Sharewares, okay? Sharewares. So sharewares are you trying to say this is a threat
Yes.
or a vulnerability? Okay, great. Sharewares. All right. So I don't think I've heard of that, but so what can we say? You want to say
Hello.
something? Please go ahead.
Yes. Sharewares. That's platforms that you can use to share data, that you can use to transfer data, like your sharing data through maybe Bluetooth,
Blender.
Oh,
can be a vulnerability now.
okay, because they are apparently insecure. Oh, okay.
Yes.
Get that. All right. Thank you so much. Yeah, so you're all right, actually. It's so looking at the vulnerabilities, what can be the threats that can exploit those vulnerabilities?
It can lead to phishing, it can lead to database breach. Hello? Can anyone hear me?
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you. I'm
So
with you.
I'm saying it can lead to like data breaches and phishing, to get unauthorized information the from the vulnerabilities.
Okay. Okay. Yeah. So this risks can be because this threats can become risks when they are not treated, right? And
Yes.
of course, it can be a breach. The threats, it can be a data breach, and of course, it becomes a risk to your system when uh information that you don't hope to share is, access has been granted and threat actors are within your system, which could also become a threat. Yeah, so we've seen the process steps from identification of your assets, your information assets. We've also looked at, identifying vulnerabilities. First of all, sorry, evaluating your information assets based on their value, and then identifying vulnerabilities and then threats, and then threats that could become risk. And of course, we also did some sort of mapping to our systems, our information assets. We're able to kind of align several risks, and we saw some of those threats with respect to loss of laptops or devices and all of those things. We did all those mapping. And of course, after your identification of risk, of course, you know that we have controls. They're what they call controls. Like we spoke about that. They're what call controls that you need to, adopt to help you mitigate some of those threats before they become a risk. Risk assessment is not, you're not trying to be reactive, you're being proactive. You want to actually find out those threats that could become risks before the threat actors, take advantage, right? So we have what we call controls. And when we were speaking to controls last week, we mentioned things around defense in depth when you're looking at security. So you don't look at security from one angle, right? You need to look at it from, you look at it from a system perspective, right? When we say system perspective, you want to look at all the, you want to ensure that security is enforced across your system stack, right? You want to ensure that at the physical layer, not just at the physical layer, you want to first, come up with a policy, a direction. Of course, you would have identified your assets, identified risk and all of those things. But of course, you need controls to help you mitigate those risks. And when we come to defense in depth, we know that security is more like there's an interaction, first of all, at the governance layer, at the physical layer, you have security at the application layer, you have security at the network level, you have security enforced at the server level, the host level, right? You want to know how traffic is coming into your network. You want to know what are the IPs that should gain access to your resource, your applications, your data, to the data, who is gaining access to the data, right? So defense in depth, we spoke about a lot, we touched on it briefly. So it's very good to take into consideration security at a system level, not just, you don't just look at it from one angle and say, okay, I'm going to protect only my endpoints, and then you forget other areas, right? And we saw, we looked at some of those things, administrative controls, we looked at physical controls. So when it comes to administrative controls, what are we looking at? Remember, these controls we need to have are what we are going to use to treat our risk, right? They are what we're going to use to treat our risk. So when we say administrative controls, what are the controls when it comes to administrative controls? Can anyone share with us what are the controls? I've been speaking for a while. Let's hear you. What are the controls for administration, governance? Yes, we need a volunteer. Okay, Mr. Steven says is centered on granting access. Right. Yeah, but of course, you also want to, have great policies, you want to define good policies that you can use to apply on your access control system. Remember, we looked at an IAM system in our last session. Of course, you want to have good policies, great policies, that can drive your information security.
What about risk management?
Sorry?
So what about risk management for the controls?
Yes, of course. Risk management is part of the administrative, the governance side of things. You need to set the direction first. You want to, develop policies first of all to say, okay, in terms of planning, we're going to adopt risk management. We're going to adopt, get some resources, and of course, you define some of your topic specific policies, access control policy, network policy, right? So that has to do with the administrative side, right? So when it comes to network security, what are the controls we'll be looking at? What are the things you think we can implement? Olivia says monitoring and audit. Right. Yeah. Monitoring. So what are the things with respect to network? What do we implement? What tool? Looking at technological controls, what tools are we going to implement to
Like
ensure?
probably firewall, upgrading the firewall,
Right.
network
And
segmentation.
Augusta wants to say something.
and also multi-factor authentication.
Okay. MFA, great. MFA. Of course, all of those components can be embedded in your next generation firewall or whatever firewall you have, or you can also use a third-party tool that syncs with your firewall. Well, but your configurations have to be very great. So yes, for network security, we're looking at firewalls. Yes. So respect to application security, what are we looking at? What are the controls what are the controls what controls are we expected in terms of technology? On the governance side, on the administrative side, we said you need to have an access control policy. But when it comes to a tool, what do you want to implement? What tool do you want to implement? Olivia says penetration testing tools. Okay. Yeah, right. Penetration testing tools. Of course, that's very important, especially on the application level. You want to actually test, do continuous tests. Of course, you might have some vulnerability, some VAPT tools that, are embedded within your systems that are continuously checking for threats. Right. Great. That works. How about, do we have any other controls? Of course, we can also implement, yes, Olivia says vulnerability scanners. Absolutely correct. Absolutely correct. What else? What else? What else?
Sorry, Mr. Joseph.
I'm with
Uh,
you.
I just wanted to insight you on something regarding the recorded session. It would actually make to look better if probably you're sharing a slide or you're just showing us something in relation so as when the class is being recorded, it would show like something to speak to, not just audio.
All right. Thank you so much, Damala. I think my screen should be up now.
Yes,
And
yes,
everyone,
it is up. I can see
okay,
it.
brilliant. Okay, brilliant.
So in regards to the control for technology, we can actually use network tools like VPN tools, network access tool, We can use endpoint security tools also, like antivirus, data protection tools like encryption tools like probably BitLocker or File Vault. So
Yeah. Yeah, of course, your fire. So that's great. Thank you, Damola. So yeah, your firewalls can have some of those tools, embedded, right? But there's always something that some organizations, do, that they try to use different tools. They try to use different tools so that you don't have one tool having to do the all in all, you know. I think it is a kind of way to like segregate our controls and duties. All right. So, firewalls will have their VPN capabilities. They will have all of those things. All right. They will have MFA. Or you can also choose to use different OEMs, different security tools, and then combine them together. Yeah. So we can also look at it from that perspective. Right. Yeah. So respect to physical control, sometimes you think physical control is not important, especially even to our personal lives. Physical control is a key control that must be implemented, right? Physical controls, right? Yeah, so some of these things you want to, apply. You want to apply some of these things. I think I should bring up the risk document. Let me see. Okay. So some of these things you really want to apply actually to the risk. So you want to do a lot around selection of appropriate control. So of course, once you identify your risk, you're able to identify your risks. You want to have treatment options, you know. So you have what we call treatment options, your treatment strategies, right? So you have things around risk avoidance, right? Risk avoidance, risk reduction. So what are you trying to do when it comes to avoidance? You want to totally eliminate the risks, right? So in the case of risk avoidance, on a practical level, what are you going to do? So what will be your control? Maybe you see a risk that is pretty high, and then you've gone to your organization, the executives, and they said, no, we can't handle this risk. We need to avoid this risk. What is the control? What is the control what do you want to do entirely? Anyone? Do you want to try? What do you want to do in entirety?
sorry, please, can you rephrase the question? I got a little bit lost.
Yeah, so when it comes to treatment, of course, these are the treatment options here. Organizations, you can also create yours. But for standard, this is what for best practice, this is what a lot of organizations, entities adopt. You see here we have risk avoidance, risk reduction, risk transfer, and risk acceptance. So when it comes to risk avoidance, what do we hope to achieve when it comes to risk avoidance? What are you going to do practically? What will you take? What is the initiative you want to take, to avoid risk? What are the initiatives? What are the controls you are going to put in place? We've said our treatment option now is want to avoid the risk, right? We want to eliminate the risk entirely.
All right. I would say first of all, we need to identify the risk.
Yeah, so let's do it this way. Damola, give us a what is it called? Give us a scenario, paint a scenario of a risk, right? Maybe an application risk, and then tell us what you would do.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hello, sir. Mr. Joseph, can I come in?
Yeah, Mr.
Hello,
Steven,
sir.
please help
Yes,
us.
sir.
Thank you. Thank you
One
so
of the
much.
real life, one
Yeah,
of the
thank
real
you.
life.
No. So no answer is incorrect. You know, we're all
All right.
learning.
All right.
So
So
no
one of
answer is
the
incorrect. Right?
one
Great. So
one
anything you're going
vivid.
to say, let's
All
listen
right.
to you.
All right. One vivid example is, for example, if a company identified that entering a volatile foreign market poses high political or financial risk, it may choose to avoid the risk by not expanding into that region and instead focus on more stable markets.
Absolutely correct. Thank you so much. So you want to you might not want to, expand into that region, right? You might not want to extend into that region. So you're avoiding the risk entirely. So bringing it down, let's take, for instance, you want to, expand the product. Of course, that product is already established. And then someone has come into the organization and said, maybe you have a new employee who is of a different perspective that says, okay, let's expand this product. Let's take this particular application. Let's expand this product into the Middle East region, or let's maybe one unstable region, right? And of course, your organization, you have what you call you have a risk profile that has been defined. You have a tolerance, and of course, within your risk profile, your risk tolerance, your acceptable, your risk acceptance, and all of those criteria have been defined. And you see that no, if we expand into this region, it could be a financial loss, it could be in terms of reputation, it could be in terms of, so whatever it is, right? Whatever it is, of course, it's going to go through an approval. And the executives at the head will now decide if they want to further reduce, their risk, increase their risk acceptance to, taking the risk. So that product, it's either no, we don't go into that region, or rather, let's go into the region and then let's see, there might be opportunities there. So different organizations will have different ways to, express what they feel about how with respect to how they manage their risk, right? So avoiding the risks entirely, you are saying, no, we're not taking our products to that region. Please give me a moment. Give me a moment. Sorry, guys. Yeah, so that's what it is. So we are trying to avoid the risk entirely. And it could even be on an application level, right? Imagine you're trying to, a vendor has said,
Can I ask
okay,
a question, please?
just go ahead and go ahead, please.
All right. You said something earlier with regards risk avoidance, and you said some organizations might decide not to go into the region and not do anything. And some organizations might be like, okay, let's go into the region and see if we can sell some products and all. So the organization that decides to go into the region, would you say that is the organization has avoided risk in that instance?
So looking at these risk management strategies here, these treatment options here, what will you think? I'm going to throw the question back to you. What will you think they have done based on one of these items? There's one of these strategies here, risk avoidance, reduction. What do you think they've done here?
Can you take the question again, please?
So based on your scenario, based on the business scenario you painted, what would you think they would have done with respect to their treatment strategy here, based on all of this?
Accepted the risk.
Right. So they've accepted the risk.
So basically, risk avoidance is not doing anything.
Not when you say not doing anything, that can be very ambiguous and it can speak to a lot of things. So risk avoidance entirely is saying we want to, we want to avoid any actions that is going to, make this risk suffice.
Can I also contribute to that, sir?
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, from what is on the screen, and in addition to, and based on the question you asked, so the risk has been properly analyzed. They've accepted it. So there's nothing like avoidance again in this aspect, because they already prepared, they already know what is in front, what is at stake.
Okay, I think I've gotten it. Thank you very much.
Right. Thank you so much. Thank you. Thank you, Michael. So that's
Then in addition, sir, hello, sir, before you proceed, sir. In addition to counter the question that it doesn't mean they didn't take any step, for them to have even avoided it, or for them to have even taken the decision not to go there, mean they have taken an action.
Sorry, Stephen, you're not too audible enough. Can you take that again?
Yes, what I'm trying to say, like he's trying to, he asked a question at the tail end of his question, he was saying that does it mean if they go by the option of risk avoidance, does it mean they don't do anything? I'm now emphasizing the fact that for them to have even analyzed the risk and take a decision that they're not going there, it's an action on itself. So that means they have done something. Even if at all they stop at risk avoidance, they have done something. That's taking the step not to go or take that risk.
Yeah, so of course it's these things are not just done in a day, right? There are going to be a lot of, there are going to be a lot of things that will be taken into consideration. It's a system-wide thing. Of course, whatever decisions, they are taking will affect people, will affect systems, will affect customers. So they're going to do a proper in-depth assessment, right? Before they can pick any of these options. Right. So risk avoidance can be okay. I want to onboard this solution into like the IAM solution we looked at yesterday. What are some of the capabilities in terms of security? Do they have these attributes? Do they have attributes of observability in terms of monitoring? And maybe if those things are not there, you're trying to say, okay, entirely, we're not taking this system, because there's some atom of risk. And you want to use another application, so you can look at it from that perspective. So let me hear your thoughts. When it comes to risk reduction, what are we doing?
Okay, when it comes to risk reduction, we are trying to minimize the risk to the barest minimum, where the effects on the product or on the company will not shut down the company or will not seriously have a negative impact on the company. Because there are some risks. It's just like someone saying, before you take a risk, you have to take a calculated risk, at least, in the sense that even if you run into anything, you are able to, you have something to fall on, or you have a way of balancing the equation.
Okay. Does anyone want to add? Thank you, Michael. That's a good one. Does anyone want to add?
Hello, sir. Yes, thank you. I think to add to what Michael have just said, simply put, as the name implies, it's just a way of reducing the impact of that threat, just to reduce it to a minimum or BRS minimum.
Okay. So Mr. Steven, can you give us a use case here? No, okay, I think you gave us the last one. Let's hear from another person. Let's hear from another person this time around. Can you give us an instance, a business use case here where there is risk, where you have to use risk reduction? Let's paint a scenario. Remember, go ahead.
Okay, if we're going to say like a business, for example, say a business, if I own a business and I install like security cameras and the likes, would that be considered risk management? Risk reduction.
Okay, sorry, I was muted. Yeah, thank you. Thank you, Enoma, right? Did I get your name well?
Enoma, yes.
Enoma. All right. So with respect to risk reduction, right, we're also trying to look at it from the perspective where, risk might be the risk in question.
Can I answer to sir?
Okay, please go ahead, Michael.
Okay, like when we're working on a project last week, was it last week? I think it was 2 weeks ago. I can't remember. Okay, it should be last week, I think. Concerning the security, the authentication, all of that, there was a particular button there that required a rollback. That's also risk reduction. Maybe you're working on website software, stuff like that. So rolling back to your previous setup helps you to reduce the risks. Yes, you might not be able to get the latest. Okay, like sometimes you are trying to upgrade an application on your phone. Then in the process of upgrading, the maybe clash, maybe the whatever happens, you are able to get the latest version. But the ability to be able to roll back to the old one allows you to reduce the risk from starting all over.
Okay. That's another angle. Thank you so much, Michael. Yeah, that's another angle. So another angle, if you remember, when we were having the risk assessment yesterday, we took, for instance, I think we looked at one of the risks and we said, okay, that they had an existing control. So in the case of the risk reduction, you might have an existing control. Of course, the risks might not have materialized, and that's why you're doing a risk assessment. You have an existing control. So let's take, for instance, you have an access control policy, but you don't have any access management tool in place. So the risk of unauthorized access is going to actually be a risk, right? It's a threat already. And of course, you have an access control policy in place. But a policy might not necessarily do the work. Maybe at a people level, it can, maybe to a certain extent, but you need a solution, to manage unauthorized access to your application. Now, what do you want to do? Because that access control policy is the only control you have in place. So your risk score, during your analysis, your risk score would have been maybe, for post-treatment, your risk score would have been maybe a 25. out of a 25, which is very high, right? Now, what you want to do, you want to look, okay, how can we reduce this risk? Is there any control in place? Before you do a risk avoidance, you would have done all your assessments, you would have done your in-depth mapping, and all the stakeholders who are interested in those things. Right. So risk reduction, so that we don't digress. So risk reduction, you are trying to come up with another control. So let me just take from Michael's perspective. We demonstrated using an IAM tool last week, right? So that IAM tool, you want to implement it. So you want to deploy an IAM solution to manage how users gain access to your application. Right? So that's risk reduction. Now, that implementation of the tool will be a compensating control that will further help reduce your risk. Right? Right? Do we understand? Or do I take it again? Hello?
Understood, sir. Understood.
Hello? Enoma, do you?
Yes, I understand, sir. Thank you.
Yes, understood, sir.
Okay, so that's for risk reduction. How about for risk transfer? What are we looking at?
Under risk transfer, sir, under risk transfer, we can contract the risk management, or we transfer the risk to this third party.
Okay. Okay. So can you give me a use case here, Mr. Steven?
For example, I think when we use a banking scenario, and some bank can engage the service of how do I call it now? Insurance company. As in, some customer can engage the service of insuring their funds in case something happens, so that they can fall back on the insurance. Insurance company can take care.
Yeah, exactly. So imagine you trying to open.
In addition, sir.
Yeah, please go ahead.
Yeah, in addition, I was muted. In addition to that, I think risk transfer majorly happen when the original party involved cannot really manage the risks, or cannot manage the risks properly. Then it require you to. That's why insurance is always in place. It requires you to transfer it. Even insurance also has they transfer to higher authority too. I can't remember, because I think I did some stuff on insurance there sometimes ago. So even when they know that, for example, now you had issue with your car, or maybe what they insure, maybe whatever the amount of the car is 100 billion, for example, and they realize that they can't take care of the payment. So they have higher authority where they transfer the risk to. So this apply here as well. In a case where the risk is bigger than you, let me put it that way. You third party, that's why insurance is always advised. But I'm sure this transfer always happen when you can't. I'm not sure it's for smaller. When the issue is high, anyway, bigger than you, that you need to transfer it to another third party to manage it for you, or probably to solve the problem for you.
Right. Thank you. You are all absolutely correct. So risk transfer is actually, in a simple sentence, is transferring the risk to another party. And why is that so? Right? Why is that so? Sometimes, so let's say risk is inevitable. There's no point in time that, you can be working and then you just fall. So risk is something that, regardless of how you treat it, there will be some elements, some residue of risk, right? And of course, you might not also have, the capacity to manage that residue, right? It might not be within your willpower, or it might not be within the organization's willpower. So what do? they try to transfer that risk. Let's take, for instance, the financial industry, looking at the banks as a case scenario, right? You keep your money in the bank. How are you sure tomorrow the bank is not going to fold up and then come and tell you the money is gone? But of course, you have a level of trust in the bank. Why? Because the bank has further gone to ensure, insure your cash, insure your funds, whatever you have in the bank, whether 2 naira or 10 naira, whatever it is. They've gone further to insure your cash through NDIC. Is it NDIC? I think so, yeah. And all of those insurance organizations. Right. So if there's going to be a race that we know is inevitable, that is going to happen, then the insurance can come in and then they're able to pay you, maybe not necessarily all your cash, but to a certain extent, some of the cash. Right. So that's what risk transfer involves. You're trying to transfer the risk because risk is inevitable. It's going to happen. Right? It's going to happen. And of course, risk acceptance is quite explanatory. We understand risk acceptance. All right. So these are the controls. These are some of the controls. These are the treatment options you want to adopt. And all of these treatment options will have specific controls you want to implement within your business, right? So these are the things you want to adopt. All right. So these are your security. So see, these are some of the security controls. We can see them here. All right. These are some of the security controls. All right. We mentioned them. Your IPS, your IDS, intrusion detection. Right. So this will help you build what we call defense in depth. Right? Because they are all compensating. They work hand in hand. Right? You can't say if you are a high risk business, you can't say we can only adopt policies. Right? Or you can't say we want to just, have incident response plans without having, the technical solutions to help you protect your systems. Remember, when we're looking at information security, you're looking at information assets, you're looking at people, you're looking at your system, you're looking at it on a system-wide perspective. You're looking at people, you're looking at information assets, because people can become a problem, right? People can become a problem. People can become a problem, right? So those are the things. And we find out that in terms of information security, on a system perspective, people are actually the weakest link. People are actually the weakest link. Or what are our views? What do we think? What will you say? Who will you say are the weakest link? What cadre of systems will you say? Is it the processes? Is it people? Is it technology? What category in a system?
Mr. Joseph, I think it should be the people, because people is the one to manage and control other processes. So the human factor is the most complicated of.
Do we agree? Are you sure?
Yes, I agree with that.
Why don't you think it's technology?
Like I said earlier, sir, technology cannot operate itself. It's the woman that will see at least control the technology. It's the woman that will see control the process. Everything still bounce back on the table of the woman. So you can do and undo.
All right. All right. Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Steven. Thank you, sir. All right. 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 So these are some of the controls you have in place, your incident response, encryption, using encryption algorithms, using access control tools, authorization tools, IAM tools, you know, all of that. Do you have any questions so far? Any questions? Yes, let's take questions from the class. Questions from the class. Augusta, are you there? Do you have any question? Or you are busy today? Hello, is Augusta there? Olivia, you're welcome. We asked after you. They say you're going to join in. Very Are you there? Do you want to help us? Do you have any questions? Yeah, do you have any questions? Please throw your questions and maybe not myself will answer, anyone in the class will answer. I think by now we're all information security experts. All right, so I'm leaving the floor for questions for 5 minutes, or sorry, for 1 minute or 2 minutes. Let's hear from the class. Or if you have any contributions, any comments, please, let's hear from you.
Hello, sir. Hello, sir.
So
Hello.
please go ahead, Mr. Steven.
Yes, I have this question I actually want to ask. It has been on my mind for quite a long time now. How can one, as an individual, as an organization, how do we prioritize security initiative, especially when our resources are so limited? When our resources are limited, how do we prioritize the security initiative?
Thank you, Mr. Steven. That's a very important that's a very good question you've raised. Does anyone want to help us out? Yes. Does anyone want to give perspective? Remember, your answers are good as mine. Does anyone want to give perspective? Yes.
I didn't get the question well.
Mr. Steven, can you take the question again?
Yes. What I'm asking, I actually want to find out in a scenario as an organization where we are faced with limited resources. How do we prioritize this security initiative as an information security management expert, as an organization with limited resources? How do we prioritize security initiative in our organization?
Okay. Let me just say something. Anyway, like you said, our answer is as correct as yours. So let me just put something there. Number one, like you've said earlier, risk is inevitable. So, and I think in terms of managing risks, we have categories, and I think everyone should, they say, sew your cloth according to your size, or I think they're twisting the proverb now. So in an organization that you manage, that level of risk you can do. For example, look at installing antivirus. You even get some cheap antivirus. Now look at this class we've been following for a while now. So some of these materials, some of these what's it called, the software we've been using, they are not paid. So those who need more than the level we are currently are now will pay for more. So you take the step based on your level, or you probably manage it based on the level you are. But my own point now is, at every stage, there's something every organization can do, and you cannot afford not to not to consider risks at some point. Even human being, like you said, you can go and fall down. I had issue with my car which day. So like it's just happened. You don't know when it will happen. You can just have it. So it's something that you are not planning, you are not praying for, but whether you like it or not, at some point it happened. And from this course, for managing the risks, the best that can happen is, or let me say, in terms of managing the risks, is in preparing ahead of time so that this stuff does not really kill you in a way. That's the purpose. And every organization has level they can manage. You can avoid some antivirus that are not expensive. You can avoid, depending on what you're doing, depending on the product. There are stuff you can manage that at your level, it will still be able to balance the equation for you somehow. Thank you.
Can I add to that?
Thank you so much, Michael. Yeah, please go ahead.
In addition to what Mr. Michael has said, I believe this would be specific to the business and the persons involved, because the nature of the business will determine the approach. And I think one of the approaches would be to manage the high risks first, which would be risk that can really do a dent on the business, manage that, and go from there in that regard. Like Mr. Michael said, you can also seek out cheap resources. But at the end of the day, there must be some level of risk management. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Enomar. Thank you, Michael. I think we do we have any other additions? Any additions? Where are the ladies in the house? Do we want to add into this? Because this is a very key. This is a good question Mr. Stephen has raised, and I think it's an area of concern, because you're going to see small businesses, right? And trust me, small businesses are the targets. Before, we used to think it was just only big organizations, but small businesses are now the target, right? So do we have any other addition to this? Let's hear from you. Yeah, so just to add to, just to cap it up, we don't have the right way, we don't have the wrong way, but there's one thing you should note as a business. First of all, when we are looking at risk assessment, we said something, identify your assets, right? And of course, the information assets you have, you want to do an evaluation. What is the value of that asset you hold? And of course, if you know the value it has to you, right? If you know the value that asset has to you, the first thing you want to do is protect that asset. So even if there are some expensive tools that you will use that may not necessarily give you the idea of security that you're even looking out for. And of course, Michael has also mentioned there are, free open source tools that you can adopt. But I'm not going to, outrightly say those open source tools will also work well for you. So you need to look at these things from that perspective. And of course, during your planning stage, during your risk assessment, during your reconnaissance and all of those things, you want to actually look for tools that are suitable or resources that are suitable. Security is not cheap. Security is actually very expensive. But at the same time, you want to look at what resources that are really, that kind of, they will give you what you really need, what you really want, So that's another angle as well, right? Security is not cheap. It's very expensive. And even at that, there are some tools that you're going to even onboard, you're going to deploy, and then you'll be shocked that they have some flaws as well. You know, you find out there are some vulnerabilities. I mean, during VAPTs for a lot of these big organizations, you see a lot of like these vulnerabilities after in the VAPT report, right? So using a big tool does not guarantee your security. So at the intersection of this thing, you want to look at the tools. You want to look at. You want to do a proper reconnaissance. You know, ensure that whatever solutions or whatever resources you're going to leverage on, that they will give you your desired outcome. So first of all, what are the assets we have? Do an evaluation. Is it worth keeping? Is it worth fighting for? Is it worth protecting? Right? So of course, there are tools that, you know, are not as expensive as the ones you see, and then they will do the job, right? But like I said, know the assets you have, and then evaluate them, and probably, you know, come up with the right approach to protecting them. All right, thank you. Any other questions? Any other questions? Any other comments? Any other questions? Any other comments?
All right, sir. Thank you so much, sir. Before we close the session for question, I still have one more question to ask. When you are taking us, I think today we are doing a revision, so to say, and under security control and framework, and you are told of three aspects of security control, which is administrative, technical, if I'm not making mistake, technical and physical control, administrative, technical, and physical control. Now, as a security expert in an organization that fall within the category of the technical, how do you communicate risk that you find, at least risk finding? How do you communicate to non-technical management? I hope my question is clear, sir.
Say, how do you communicate risk?
Yes, how do you communicate risk finding to non-technical management?
Well, you know, risk is not something. Risk is it goes both ways. You're reporting risks to the management. You know, risks should be the risk culture within an organization. I don't know how it's obtainable within your organization, but I mean, to a level of extent, you should be able to simplify it, and you know, because perspective, they don't want to hear a lot of your technical stuff. They just want to see that whatever risk it is, they want to understand that whatever the risk may be, it's something that could, you know, disrupt the business, or it could be a problem, or it could be an issue. So you should be able to, you know, speak in simple terms when it comes to management. However, on the operational side of things, you can speak technical about when it comes to risks. But whatever is obtainable, I don't know what's obtainable within your organization, but I mean, that should be the approach. Management is too burdened with, they are busy with a lot of, you know, things, or maybe they are busy with some sort of, you know, there are other stuffs. They don't want to necessarily hear the technical. So you might look at, if you're reporting to them, you might look at how you can break it down or simplify it, you know, for them to understand, because risk is not something that you make technical. It needs to be very much understood so that they know what's in and what's in it.
Thank you so much, sir. Thank you.
sir.
There's something similar to it, sir, at least from the managerial cadre. How do we ensure policy compliance across the organization?
Sorry, can you take that again?
From the at least management or management and or managerial perspective, how do we ensure policy compliance across all the organization? I think the management are saddled with a policy for at least when we are telling when we break it down, we have the management, we have the technical, we have the physical, and you made us understand that the management are saddled with a policy formulation of policy, and they are to ensure that this policy are carried out by everybody in the organization. So how do we ensure at least policy are carried out or are complied with across board in organization?
All right, thank you so much. Does anyone want to try and help us out? Yes, let's hear from you. Hello, Olivia. Is Olivia there? Is Ogumba here? Let's hear from you. Let's answer Mrs. Stevens' question.
I think the policies are the guidelines now, the rules that the management has enforced that everyone in the system will have to follow up.
I think
Yes, ma'am, you are correct, ma'am. But how do the management ensure that these policies are carried out by all? How do they ensure the implementation of this policy? That's the question.
Sorry, Mr. Stephen, can you ask the question from beginning again? Put it together again, please.
Mr. Michael, what I'm asking is that when we were listening in this class, we were told that under security control, there were 3 levels: the management, the technical, and the physical. Then we were told that the management are saddled with the responsibility of at least policy formation, at least they have to formulate policies, which other segment of the organization has to follow. Now, I am now asking a question. How do the management ensure these policies are followed across board?
Okay, thank you. So let me just add to it. I think we are slightly deviating to business management in that aspect based on that question. But I will, based on my knowledge too, I will try and put 1 or 2 things together. Basically, that's why.
Sorry, sir. Before you go ahead, Mr. Michael, we are not going to business. We are not going to business. It's still under security control. What we are saying is that yes, it's still under security control. There are 3 levels of security control. We have the management, we have the technical, we have the what's it called, the physical. So under the management, that they want to make sure that these security controls policies are formulated. So it's not business related, it's not business person. So how do the people in the section of the management of security control ensure that other segments of the setting complies with the policy?
Okay, thank you. I think I got the question right now. So it's different from what I was thinking before. I think I will take us back to, because that practical really helps, and maybe we'll be able to answer this question logically for us, in the sense that if you look at when we are assigning rule, that's why it's very important. All of us now, as we are here, aside we are using our phone, some are using your router. I will break it in a way that maybe I'll be able to answer the question even as a layman in a way. For example, now I own an hotspot to be able to connect to my laptop. I'm not using my router. As an admin here now, my wife can connect to my phone or maybe the router if she doesn't have data, whatever. Okay, now let me also use this. Sometimes my children connect to the iPad. So how do I manage this? Because now in this case, I'm the admin here, which is in charge of the whole, how the data is distributed. Like my children, for example, now I have a way of saying today they won't use more than 2 gig. I will put it here because I know them. Once you allow them, once you free them, that like you're saying, put in an organizational aspect too. There's kind of freedom you give to people, they misuse it. So like you say, how the organization manage it well? There are some roles you don't give to some people, depending on what they are holding in the company. Technically, there is always that admin role that takes you out. And that when we're doing that practical 2 weeks ago, or last week, you realize that we're saying that as an admin, you have the ability to edit or to write, to do this. Then the users, their abilities are limited. That's the only way you can control it. So you need to be able to give them limited ability. Some of us that manage social media account as well. You will realize that there is an admin role. If you are managing Facebook, if you have a page, you see that there is an admin role who can do anything. You can delete anybody. You can remove. You see anybody messing up, you can delete at any time. There are also someone who just manage. You can only post. You can't do something else. That's the role of admin, whether in an organization, whether in a small dealings. So the role, what takes you out as an admin is that you have control practically over everything. And you don't allow the rest to have such control in a way that even if you remain one thing, you'll still be able to say no. Sometimes, look at WhatsApp, for example, now. I advised my church which day because I told them something. This is just my own logical reasoning. I told them if, what's it called? Every church platform should have more than a single admin. And I will tell you why I said that. It's just my own logical reasoning anyway. In case, because I realized that some of the members, someone hacked somebody's account, they were running up and down, hey, this account is hacked, I said, you guys should not panic. The most important thing about somebody hacking or this WhatsApp, whatever is, ensure you have more than one admin on a WhatsApp. In the sense that if an admin account, if it's a sole admin or it's just one admin, if their admin is hacked, that WhatsApp is completely gone. Whoever take over that can manipulate and delete all of you self. Put new things and have sole control. That account is completely gone. But once you have one or two admin, you can still use the second admin to take over back in a way if you are quick, if you guys are online. So just my own. So what I'm saying now is the admin has sole control over whatever you are doing, what you guys want to do. And the only way to manage it is to ensure that you don't give that admin privilege to everybody, depending on what role they are holding. Technical, even some, sorry. Somebody want to say something? I think I'm done anyway. I don't know if I've been able to answer the question, Sha.
Thank you so much, Michael. Mr. Steven, are we good?
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. I'm good. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So in essence, Michael has said, create your policies, enforce your policies on your applications or whatever systems. So management is to set the direction first, come up with the policy, right? Then they need to also show commitment. They need to also, let the people know that there are actions that will be taken against them, disciplinary actions. If you look at the ISO 27000 and what, some of those controls are there, right? So you can fall back to those controls. So if management doesn't, it's a top-down thing. If management doesn't drive, they don't set up the direction, and then they don't, not just, coming up with policies, they must also be committed to it, providing the resource. And also, of course, those resources, they should be able to enforce those policies that they have defined. So in essence, Michael has also said, enforce the policies to ensure that security is maintained, and least privilege access, I think, is also spoken to as well. I think I saw, I think someone wants to speak again. Let me leave the does anyone want to add any additions, or we're good?
Thank you so much, sir. Then a little addition, like when I asked a question earlier about how do people in the technical section communicate to the people in the administrative to say something, which I also want to add to this. There should be clear communication, like you told me, or your response. You said that when the technical when there is a kind of what's it called? When the technical department want to pass across policy of what security finding to the administrative, that they should use a clear terms, not a technical terms. So also, I think one of the things, in addition to what Michael and what everybody have said, there should be clear communication. At least the communication policy should be clear. The policy should be made to they should make it easy to understand. As administrative or management should make policy easy to understand, and they should avoid unnecessary technical jargons, so that everybody will be able to understand it clearly. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Steven. Thank you very much. Hello, Augusta, do you want to say something? Okay, so when it comes to security, we should also it's expected. I mean, when we're looking at the IAM tool last week, we saw that they had a section for monitoring. Let me see. Let me see if I can come to the application. Give me a moment. We saw there was a section yeah, so we saw a section where they had monitoring. Just give me a moment. Let me share my screen again. Right. So going back to our dashboard. Wow. Coming back to, sorry, is my screen showing?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. It's showing. You can see it.
Hello. Okay. Okay, great. So coming back to our dashboard, if you remember when we went to monitoring, of course, we can see some of the real-time logs. Every of our actions, right? We can see every of our actions. So we see all of our actions here, right? Of course, you want to also prepare for incidents. And that's why for most of the security solutions, they have the capability. Sometimes you may need to, pay for those services for them to be enabled. But we are very fortunate to be to have this service, on the free version, right? And monitoring is very important because you need to monitor how at the various security layers, you need to be able to monitor how your applications, how your network, how they are behaving, and for any deviations, any discrepancies. Of course, these cloud native solutions will give you the opportunity to monitor real time. But you also have security solutions where you can aggregate, data from all your security tools, right? So sometimes you want to find out what are the deviations. Are they a cause for concern? In information security, the ISO 27001, they will give you there's a control during incident management that says you should assess whether it's an event or an incident. Of course, as an organization, you've already defined what should be an incident based on the severity, or what should be an event, right? So based on that, I think if we come here, we should see in depth into all of those things. Okay, let me check here. No, not here. I think it's here. Here? Is it here? No, I think it's here. There's a place that gives you so there's a place that gives you information into some of the issues. Where did I get that information? So when I'm able to find it, but what I'm trying to drive here, okay, I think it's actions. Is it actions? Or was it security? Yeah, I think it's here. Security center. All right. So what I'm trying to drive out here is you need to be able to plan for your incidents. Of course, organizations will adopt some very good cloud native tools that will help them, manage incidents. Of course, we have your next generation firewalls that actually have this capability of, they have intrusion prevention and detection capabilities. So as you're seeing threats real time, they're able to mitigate those things. So in essence, what I'm trying to say is you need to also have the incident ready. And that's why if we see in the slide, it's speaking to incident planning. And of course, you should have a proper incident plan. That is a plan that, would specify like resources that will be needed to, mitigate whatever threat actors or whatever incidents that spring up within your security posture. You want to create an appropriate plan and not just create a plan. The plan has to be tested. You know, who's going to activate, you know, who is going to manage the incidents, who are the incident team, you know, your SOC team, you know, that will manage whatever incidents or issues that may spring up, right? So this is a security center. And of course, there are some configurations you can make here that will, you know, help you mitigate certain things, right? That will help you mitigate certain threats, you know. However, when the threat now becomes an incident and then there's an attack on your system, your plan should also be there to help you. What are you going to do next? What is the next chain? What's the next thing to do? Are you trying to isolate that system? So that's where your plan comes into play. So all of these capabilities here are here. You have the monitoring, you have the security center trying to, you know, mitigate threats and all of those things. But at the end of everything, if the threat still suffices and the bad actors are able to gain access to your system, what do you want to do? How are you prepared for it? And you see here, a lot of organizations, you know, struggle. People struggle here because they are not actually, you know, they are not ready. They don't have a plan in place, right? And that's what we hope to achieve here, right? Detection, containment, you know, detect. And from your monitoring, that's where you'll be able to detect your incidents. If you don't monitor, how are you going to be able to detect? First of all, you want to know, what are we even monitoring? Are we monitoring system activities? Are we monitoring network activities? What IPs have access, are gaining access into our database? You know, which of these events are we monitoring? Are we monitoring administrative events? Are we monitoring security events, applications? You know, what are we monitoring? So monitoring cuts across the different layers: application monitoring, database monitoring, you know, network, and all of those things. And that's why you need to monitor before you can identify, you know, incidents. And by the time you do that, of course, when you identify that there's an incident, there's a system or a particular segment of the network has been compromised, what do you want to do? You want to contain it, right? You want to contain it. And that's why defense in depth is a very key. It's the best practice for protecting your systems. So even if they are going to gain access to your application layer, they won't gain access to your database layer, right? So that's the essence. So you want to contain it. That segment of the network or that segment of that application that has been compromised, you want to, you know, protect it, or a particular service, you know, or whatever it is, and then remove the threat, right? So incident response is very key. And you must test it, not just having the plan and you know, just being over it. You must be able to test all the scenarios that you've painted, and you know, ensure that you're future proof. So I think we've really we've talked a lot on this. This brings us to the end. Do we have any questions so that we can wrap things up? Any questions so that we can wrap things up? Any questions so that we can wrap things up? Questions, I think. Any questions? So if there are no questions, I'm going to hand over to the Transformation College team. Thank you so much once again for having me. And it was great to see you all again this weekend. Thank you.
All right, Mr. Joseph, thank you very, very much for that refreshment on the class today. I really appreciate the way you analyzed everything and broke it down for us to really understand the requirements and the basic things we need to know, and even you took it up on another level. So kindly help us appreciate Mr. Joseph in the chat box, or you can unmute your mic to speak. Let us or let him know how you felt about the class. And see, Mr. Steven is already thanking you in the chat box, which said thank you so much, Mr. Joseph. We really appreciate you a lot. And I want to use this medium or this opportunity to make an announcement the ongoing assessments, regarding the ongoing assessments that for this class for diploma in information systems. And I want to make sure that I employ every one of us here. If you have not completed your assessment, kindly, this is just a means of test to test your knowledge of how far you've gone and where you are, so that you will know how to continue on the second semester. So basically, what I want every one of us to do is, if you know you have a pending assessment, you can just contact our admin at Transformation College via WhatsApp or via Telegram or via email to send your message across, and it will be sorted. So basically, we thank everyone once again for today's session, for turning up. We'll see you again in the next one. And the graduation for the AI courses and the Friday courses is coming up. So make sure you do your assessment so that you'll be able to qualify to get your certificate. And once you pass your exams, you will also be happy, and that's an achievement level passed. And I want to also understand this, that when you do an assessment or you take a course and you pass the level to you're okay, you pass the course, there's nothing more that would give you a better positioning on that profession than you doing your own personal research and upgrading your knowledge, because we can only take you so much because of some implications. We try our best to give you experts led training where professionals will come and take us on here on Transformation College, so that we can give you the best from the best. So once again, I would like to talk to everybody to make sure we do our assessments, and I hope to see everyone once again until the graduation. Please make sure you are always active on each of uh, the 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 groups you are in, and you are active. If you have any complaints, you can talk to the admin. You can let us know how to make it better for you. So thank you very much once again. We'll see you in the next one. Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Mr. Steven. Thank you, Mr. Michael. Thank you, Enoma. Thank you, Ferdinand. Thank you,
Sorry, I just wanted
Ivy.
to ask. Sorry, sir, is this
Okay,
our
I'm
last week?
listening. You said?
Is this our last week? I mean, the last week on the course. Is it the
Yes,
final?
for this semester.
Oh,
But
okay.
more information will be passed through the group. That's why I'm telling everybody to be active on the group, because of the year is coming to an end, and we still have, I think we still have no we still have one more class. Let me confirm
One
that
more classes.
we
Okay.
still have one more class based on the timetable sent, or we still have okay, we still have two more classes based on the timetable. So I just confirmed that, so we still have two more classes, but due to the due to the assessment going on, I just want everybody to to be active and present to take the assessment with the pace we are going, so that everything will be on a balanced level. But we still have two more classes to go, and I'm sure we'll be able to see each other again, even for the graduation. I know some of us here will be graduating too there. So thank you very much. Thank you for. And I'm just saying this. It is not the graduation is not for this program. It's not for DIS, because I know some of us here are doing other courses with Transformation College. That is why I'm making that statement. I'm not saying this course you're going to be graduating, because this is just the first session. This is just the first session. So you have to wait till the next session and complete the course before the graduation for this particular course. Is that clear?
Oh,